In my previous videos, we discussed the basic steps to creating an espresso brew recipe so that you can get consistent shots. Now, let's talk about additional factors that you can use to take those shots to the next level. There are two things to consider when upping your espresso game: temperature and pressure. Not all machines will have these features, but if you like to have complete control, take a look at Rocket's R60V and La Marzocco's GS3, two super detail-oriented machines that will give you the ultimate cafe experience at home. When it comes to temperature, you're essentially dealing with the speed at which you're able to dissolve soluble solids. The higher the temperature, the more you'll be able to dissolve in the short period of time that you're pulling the shot. Dissolve too much, and you've got an over-extracted, most likely bitter shot. On the other hand, if you don't get enough dissolved into your cup, you have an under-extracted cup that will be weak, lacking in body, and potentially sour. You'll notice that you can really play with the texture of your shots when adjusting temperature as well. If you don't have the ability to adjust the brew temperature on your machine, it's not a problem. You can work with grind, dose, and brew time to make sure you're getting a well-extracted shot. But if you want to take more control, a machine with a PID will allow you to control the temperature of the water that's inside of your boiler. There will almost always be a degree of error that you have to account for in setting up your PID, and this is something that you want to refer to your user manual about when you're getting started with a new machine. As far as deciding on what brew temperature to use, it does take a bit of trial and error to figure out what will work for you. Optimally, you'll want to be brewing in the 195 to 205 range, and that's the temperature that you want your water at as it hits your grounds, not necessarily what you need to program your PID to. But don't let that limit your experimentation. Try an even higher temperature if you're pulling a ristretto and see how it affects the sugars in your coffee. It's all about finding what works best for you. I do have a few guidelines that I personally follow when dialing in the temperature for a new coffee. For a coffee with a floral or tea-like profile, I'll start with a lower temperature, typically about 198. For me, these coffees don't require a super heavy body as an espresso, and the lower temperature will preserve the more delicate notes. For a coffee with bolder notes, or darker roast, I'll start right in the middle at 200. This tends to be a more balanced shot with a nice silky body, but tones down the bitterness that can often come with these coffees. And for a coffee with sweet, fruity notes, I'll start with a higher temperature around 204. Mostly to avoid those fruit notes coming across sour, but also to get a thick, syrupy body that will really highlight a jammy profile. But of course, the key to a great shot is to experiment. There are no hard and fast rules, just guidelines. Next week, I'll dive into the world of pressure. Thanks for watching, see you then.